Blessings, people of God. This is Pastor Newton from the Mount Washington Baptist Church. We're just so grateful to be here today. I want to give you a word that God gave to me early this morning. I won't keep you long, but it's a word that comes straight from 1 Kings, the 11th chapter. It's concerning Solomon. And he told Solomon, or it says in the first verse of the 11th chapter of 1 Kings, it says, "But King Solomon loved many strange women." And then when we look at that fourth verse, it says something very serious. It says, "For it came to pass when Solomon was old, that his wives turned away his heart after other gods, and his heart was not perfect with the Lord, his God, as was the heart of David, his father." God shared with me today that we need to stay away from strange women. Now you might be saying, "Well, Pastor, I have no strange women in my life." Some of you might be saying, "I'm a woman and I don't marry women." What are you talking about? When I talk about strange women, I'm talking about in a spiritual aspect. Go with me spiritually. And first of all, we know that anything strange is something that is introduced to you by an outside source. And then when we talk about wives, we have to look at what a wife is. And as we go to the book of Ephesians, we see that as a person that we love just as we love ourselves. We treat them with respect. We nurture them. We would be willing to die for them, just as Christ died for the church. And so when we talk about strange women or strange wives that we attach ourselves onto, like Solomon did, what we're talking about are those things that are not introduced to you by God, whatever it may be. It could be a relationship, it could be a job, it could be a position, whatever it is. What it is introduced to you for is to sway and to turn your heart from God. And I would ask the question today, can you sit and give self-inventory and think of anything that has been introduced to you that has taken you away from what God has told you to do? Has it swayed your heart? Do you have more of a heart and more of a love, more of a passion for it than you do for what God has called you to do? And so as a warning, what we need to look and see and learn from King Solomon, here's a man that God used mightily. Here's a man that God didn't use his father David to build the temple of Israel. God used him to build the temple. God used him to build the king's house. God used him in a mighty and an anointed way. But shortly after, with all the wisdom, all the brains, the smartest man on earth, the best dressed man the world had ever seen at that time, here he is, that he would heed and give his heart to many other women and wives that swayed him from God. Do you know that's how the enemy attacks us today? He comes in from the flank. I'm reminded of the story of Balak and Balaam. Balak, the enemy king, wanted the prophet of God to come and curse the children of Israel. Well, he paid the prophet money, but when the prophet came to speak curses on the children of Israel, it's in the book of Numbers, when he spoke curses on the children of Israel, God fixed it to where every time he tried to curse them, blessings came out of his mouth. So he continued to do that, and God wouldn't allow his children to be cursed. But do you know how he was able to sway or to get the children of Israel to turn from God? He sent women, strange women, into the camp, and they married and joined themselves to those women, and their hearts were turned from God. And that's what my word is today to you, to beware of the strange women, not the physical women. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about those things that are introduced to you by outside sources. Outside sources, what do you mean? Those things that are not godly. The things that God has not placed on your heart. Some of us are doing things that aren't bad. Some of us are doing things that aren't a sin. But if it sways and turns your heart from God, if it stopped you from coming to Bible study, if it stopped you from coming to Sunday school, if it stopped you from coming to church, if it stopped you from getting on your knees and having personal, intimate time with God, if it has stopped you from reading your word to get nurtured in strength, if it has pulled your heart away from God and you have more of a passion for it than you do for God, it's strange. You need to divorce that joker and divorce it right now. God bless you. Thank you for letting me share into your lives.